Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brownstone. I'm your host, Dr. Michel, and you are listening to Numbers Don't Lie, where you learn to get out your feelings so you can make the best decisions for yourself, your family, and your business. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about Women's History Month, the Forgotten Woman. All month, you're going to hear from women that are dominating and pioneering in their market. Because we tend to, always look back so far during this month. But I want you to remember that you're making history right now. Our history is being made every single day. So let's go ahead and jump into today's show. We're going to start with a little history about how Women's History Month came to be. Now, you can find this information on womenshistory.org on their website. So Women's History Month began as a local celebration in Santa Rosa, California. The Education Task Force of the Sonoma County Commission on the Status of Women planned and executed a Women's History Week celebration in 1978. The organizers celebrated during the week of March 8th to correspond with International Women's Day. The movement spread across the country as other communities initiated their own Women's History Week celebrations the following year. Now, in 1980, just 2 years later, a consortium of women's groups and historians led by the National Women's History Project, now known as the National Women's History Alliance, successfully lobbied for national recognition. In February of 1980, President Jimmy Carter issued the first presidential proclamation declaring the week of March 8th, 1980 as National Women's History Week. Subsequent presidents continued to proclaim a National Women's History Week until March 1987. Now, that's a good year right there. In March of 1987, Congress passed Public Law 100-9, designated March as Women's History Month. Between 1988 and 1994, Congress passed additional resolutions requesting and authorizing the president to proclaim March of every year as Women's History Month. But since 1995, each president has issued an annual proclamation designating the month of March as Women's History Month. Woo! Now, the National Women's History Alliance selects and publishes the yearly theme. The theme for 2023 is Celebrating Women Who Tell Our Stories. Oh, I love that because our stories are so powerful. I've learned so much about the strength and resiliency of women just by listening to their stories, whether it be in a formal setting, they're giving a speech or some type of speaking event, or just in conversation, or maybe even on a podcast. You get to hear about the ability for them to overcome, to elevate and rebuild. So if they did it, then you can do it too. So I love to hear all about it. So in today's episode, I want to celebrate women who are in fact making history, but often overlooked. This is what I call the undershadowed woman or the forgotten woman. And while she was great and paved the way, we don't have to look back to Madam C.J. Walker, right? There are women that are millionaires today. She paved the way, but we don't have to look back that far. Of course, we celebrate the Marsai Martins of the world, right? She's the youngest executive producer in Hollywood. And while we celebrate that, we also celebrate her mom, who's a co-owner of their production company and who persevered when the first 3 agents that they sought to represent her said, "We already have a girl that looks like that." Her mom was quoted in the magazine saying, in essence, they were saying, "We already have our little black girl, our one little black girl. We don't need 2. Y'all know it still happens. Those tokens out there. Apparently there's a quota out there. But just as Marsai Martin is a part of history and is celebrated, so should her mom. Because without Carol Martin, there will be no Marsai. In the same way we celebrate Ruby Bridges, we should also celebrate our mothers and grandmothers. They too integrated their schools around that same time. Now I'm going to read this directly from a 2020 article that was published in the Garner News because my mom grew up in Garner, North Carolina. This is what it says. In 1968, North Carolina schools were still nearly entirely segregated, and Garner hadn't been any quicker to embrace integration than the rest of the state. Nearly 15 years after school segregation was ruled unconstitutional, school systems were relying on freedom of choice programs, allowing for token you just heard me say that, token amounts of Black students to apply to white schools rather than committing or believing in the importance of integration. So there was speckles in schools as opposed to full integration. But Garner Senior High School actually made history back then because they did something unprecedented. They actually created a whole new school. Like, it wasn't just, oh, our school is better, you Black kids come over here. Or, oh, we don't want to go to your school because, you know, it's raggedy. It was, let's create a common space that we could all call our own. And there was a concerted effort to make sure that everyone felt welcome. And not, when I say y'all, I'm gonna post the link to the articles. It was phenomenal what that principal did and what in partnership with others. Because one thing they did was make sure while there was a white principal, there was a Black vice principal, because it needs to be representation. And honestly, that's all we're celebrating this month, is the representation of women in these markets. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. So while these women, these grandmothers, these mothers, these aunties may not have made the history books, may not have their own movie like Ruby Bridges, they're still deserving of our applause. They're still deserving of our celebration. I had white friends all throughout school, and you know what? Our parents made it okay for it to happen. If not, I would have never known them. I would never went to my friend's house and met for the first time. I really feel like everyday millionaires. Like, you know, you kind of stuck in your world, in your silo, and your community. You don't know other things exist, right? You don't know what you don't know. But I went to her house. They had 2 staircases, 2 sets of staircases in their house. I was like, what? And then y'all, later on, they moved to a bigger house. I got to be exposed to that at a very early age. So shout out to all the people, all the women and men, but we're celebrating women right now. So men, you know, it's all right. You can celebrate with me. You have your month soon. But all the women, all the aunties, the grandmothers, the great grandmothers that paved the way for us to have everyday luxuries, to have normal walks down the street and be able to go to schools and universities and work certain jobs. They paved the way and made it possible for us. Now, I've told you about me, you know, throughout this podcast. If you've been listening since day one, if you don't know about me and a few details I've given about my mom, check out episode 1, where I go into a little more detail about, you know, being where the money resides, you know. Yeah. And I owe a lot of that to my mom. And what you see in front of you is an entrepreneur. And maybe you deem me as successful. You know, all my life, I've been lauded for who I am. Oh, she's so smart. Oh, her future's so bright. You're going places. But while I am making history, while I am building an empire, while I am training the next generation of Black data professionals, there are some people that are working behind the scenes that push me to be where I am today. And you know what, y'all? I'm so grateful for them. And I'm going to share a little bit more about them. Let's go ahead and move forward so I can tell you about them. So my mom, she's a bomb.com, like, you know, but she was a typical Black mama. Let me just say that, because I don't want y'all to think, I'm not trying to paint this really flowery picture of her. She was like a Black mama, okay? Didn't play, will crack the whip on you, okay? My friends knew that back then. They said, oh, Miss Josey don't play. Because she didn't. She didn't. My grandmother often said that she was serious. Like, even as a child, she was serious. But she saw that I was gifted in mathematics very early on. So she made sure to find programs that would continue to nurture that gift inside of me. So when I say she would find programs, she sought them out. Honestly, the internet wasn't even like a huge deal. And like, we still had dial-up. And back then, what was in 6th grade? I didn't even know if we had internet at home yet. But somehow she found these programs. And the first one that she found was called Math Science Education Network. So just continue to direct me in that path of STEM, right? Science, technology, engineering, math. But my mom, fun fact, my mom actually was, she went to, you know, I'm just going to say it. She went to North Carolina A&T State University for a year before she went to the Air Force. And she was majoring in engineering. And she wanted me to also do that. You know, I just said it like that because I went to the illustrious North Carolina Central University. So but she wanted me to continue down that path of STEM. So she found this MSEM program, and I was in it from 6th grade to the 12th grade. And that whole time, we were being nurtured and groomed in the field of math and science. I didn't always feel like waking up to go to Saturday Academy at 8 a.m. But you know what? It wasn't about my feelings. My mom was preparing me for my future. Remember, we're getting out of our feelings, right? Making the best decisions for ourselves, our families, and our business. Had she not done that, had she given in to how we felt, oh, I'm tired, because you stayed up on Friday night. Oh, I'm tired. I don't feel like going. I want to get some more sleep. Miss Josey was not trying to hear that. You get up and go, because she had my future in mind. So I stayed in this program, got an early exposure to college, understanding scholarships, all that stuff. And y'all, she even went to my 8th grade math teacher, Miss Brown. She went to Miss Brown, and she asked Miss Brown, hey, if you know of any programs, that can keep Michelle interested in math. I don't even remember why I know this, but I feel like I remember her having this conversation. It was kind of like, an earshot. If you know any programs, can you tell me about it or let me know? Because she wanted to make sure I stayed interested in mathematics. Well, Miss Brown found something, or she knew of something, and she gave the information to my mom. And it was a little program for young girls that were interested in mathematics. And we met a few times, and they actually had, it was like a competition or something. I think I won, It's me. I won. And the prize was you get a scholarship, a $500 scholarship to any summer program of your choice. Well, the summer program that I chose was, for 2 reasons, was distance and money. Because it was $500 in North Carolina Central University. Had a $500 program, and it was just 30 minutes down the road. So my mom can get me there easily. I didn't have to go too far, and it was within that budget that they gave us, okay? I was counting coins very early on. You got to go check out episode 1 where I talk about that. So I go to North Carolina Central University, and y'all, that was so instrumental in shaping who I am today. Like, just that early exposure to the school and knowing that that was a possibility for me. I could see myself there, and I later returned there for school. I would say the rest is history, but it's not, because I'm in fact still making history. So my mom was so instrumental to shaping who I was and making sure I stayed on the path. And I'm so appreciative of her. And I know you guys are maybe even thinking about your own moms and very appreciative to who she was. Now, when I return back, I'm going to tell you about more women in my life that helped shape me. And I know it's going to challenge you to think about those women that are in your lives as well.
Jenkins Data Consulting helps nonprofits and small businesses strategize, optimize, and scale by unleashing the power of their data. So if you're ready for your data to be unleashed to help your business tell beautiful stories, connect today by logging on to mogulbeginnings.com. That's mogulbeginnings.com.
So you are currently listening to Numbers Don't Lie with me, Dr. Michelle, on KCCR The Brownstone. You can follow me and follow us on brownstoneworldwide.com, as well as on Facebook at Brownstone Worldwide. I've been enjoying myself here in the Brownstone family, and I hope you have too. So make sure you go tinker around on the Brownstone Worldwide website and even check out the latest issue of Brownstone Living. The March edition is going to be phenomenal. The cover is phenomenal. Let me tell you this right now. The cover is phenomenal. I have an article in there, so go ahead and check it out and let me know what you thought about it too. So let's come on back. I want to share more women with you that have been instrumental in my life, because I didn't get here just, because I'm so great. There were other people behind the scenes, right? So I told you about my mom. Well, my mom, she came from someone that's also pretty amazing. I want to go back to even my grandmother, who only had a middle school education. She valued education and even wanted to become a teacher at some point, but she only had a middle school education, and she went on to become a pastor, leading other women in the way of the Lord, but also just being an advocate and a a mentor to any woman that she came in contact with. She was a housewife, but not too proud to be a housekeeper, to make sure that her children had what they needed and get a little something for herself. She was a pillar in her community, advocating for women and inspiring them to take care of themselves and to go even further than she did. She would do missionary work in her community by going to people's homes and cooking and cleaning. That was her natural gifts. That's what she did. She loved to cook. She would bring cakes. She would make cakes. She would make sure that these women had what they needed. And she would often do this for pregnant women because she had a special place in her heart for them. She loved being a mother. I remember her telling me that she always wanted to be a mom. Like when she was younger, that was something that she was looking forward to. So she did get married pretty early and started pretty early, but that was something that she wanted to do. So she loved women and pregnant women, and she wanted to make sure that they were taken care of. And she had 5 children of her own, but she was just a blessing to so many other people. I mean, family, cousins, people that weren't even family. It was y'all, kid you not. I kid you not. It was a lady that went to my grandparents' church that called her grandma. Let me give you some context so you can understand how powerful that statement is. Now, this woman was grown, so she was too old to be my grandmother's grandchild, and she was white. So she could not be naturally by birth my grandmother's grandchild, but she loved my grandmother and probably couldn't tell her nothing, like that was her grandma. But that's how much my grandmother loved people. So I want you to think about your grandmother. I want you to think about those women that were so nurturing to you that may not have birthed you. But because of that nurture, because of that love, because of that support, you are who you are today. They made sure you had meals. They made sure you had clothes. Because you know the grandma going to take care of their grandbabies. At least most of them. They going to make sure their grandbabies got stuff. Make sure you have something for Christmas. Make sure you feel loved and supported. And many times these women made so many sacrifices so you could feel that way, right? So you could open up some gifts during Christmas. They might not have got a thing. But they made sure you had something so you felt pride and you didn't feel left out, right? I could go on and on about the women that have impacted my life, the ones that encouraged me during those tough teaching years. I told you about that a little bit out there, right? I was a teacher for 3 years, teaching math. I was a high school math teacher. I was groomed in that too. And also shout out to Miss Wells, who mentored me in high school and helped me get on that road to becoming a teacher. I thought that's what I was going to do. I was going to be a math teacher because I was good at math. And that was the only thing that I knew I could do. Right. So I became a math teacher, and y'all, it was so tough. It was so hard. I was so miserable. Of course, I had my good days. Of course, I had some good classes, but my experience as a whole was not a great one. I don't have a lot of great memories from there, but I made so many great friends. I have teacher friends to this day that we still keep in contact. We still hang out. That was one of the best things that came out of that experience. That's not true. My ability to speak to you right now is one of the best things that came out of that. I'm not camera shy. I don't get stage fright. I have no problem speaking in front of audiences because of my teaching experience. But those years were so hard for me, y'all. I struggled. And I mean, it was just I had to come on another show and tell you more stuff was going on that made that time of my life very hard. But But I thank Jamitra and Mari for being there to mentor me, to help me during those times. I thank Miss Joyner for being my teacher, who apparently was my twin. Miss Josey, Miss Joyner, they just would confuse us. Y'all, we look nothing alike. They would just confuse us. But I thank that for her friendship, and Miss Martinez, Amber, for her friendship. Like she was a bright spot in my day. I would go down to the office at lunchtime or during my planning period and just have small talk. I had nothing else. I didn't have anything to bring. I didn't have any folders. I had nothing to turn in, but I just wanted to go and just talk with her. And she was such a bright spot in my day because the day was tough for me. Being a young, short, petite teacher and in high school with these huge kids. It was tough. But I'm so grateful to those women for surrounding me and supporting me and made sure I had what I needed. I also had, it was a boss, a woman that pushed me to become a doctor. She said, you should go after your PhD. Y'all, I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm like, well, what should I do? I don't know. I'm still trying to find myself. I'm like 26 years old. 26, 27 years old, just finding myself, figuring out life. I found myself working for her. And I have to tell y'all the story about that too. Cause that was just the favor of God that I got there. Got jobs from her with not even interviewing. It was just meeting me. Do you want these jobs? I said, yes. Cause I wasn't going back to the classroom. I already made up my mind. I had already left. I didn't know I was going, but it won't going back there. And I met her and she just supported me and encouraged me. She helped groom my skills that I use to this day. Even as an entrepreneur, I still use those skills. She was so instrumental. She pushed me to become a mentor to other undergraduate students. I was an adjunct professor under her. So got a taste of what it's like to be a professor. And I was like, oh, I kind of like it. And she introduced me to other people that I could mentor and pushed me to become a PhD student. And I was like, well, what should I study? She was the one that said, you should study epidemiology. At that point, y'all, I don't even know if I really had heard of it like that. It might have just been a word that you've heard, but didn't really know what it meant. I had to Google it. So she said, and I was like, epidemiology. I fell in love with it because she said it's what you're already doing now. I was already doing research. I was already helping other people write their research papers by performing the data analysis. So she was like, just go get a degree for doing what you're already doing. And y'all, I did that. She actually came to I think it was my hooding. She actually came to my hooding. She traveled from Tennessee to come to, it was my hooding in May to come see me cross the stage. And that meant so much to me. And not only did she encourage me to go to school, she actually made sure that I was financially supported in the process. Can you imagine going off to school only having a stipend, right? And the stipend, now granted, it was a blessing because not everybody had it, but the stipend was only like $20,000 a year. That's not enough as a grown adult to live and to like be a grown adult, pay bills, all this stuff. Gas, you know what I'm saying? Wasn't cheap. So she continued to provide financial support for me so I didn't miss a beat. So I had everything I needed. I could provide for myself. I could feed myself. I thank you. Like she was just such a wonderful person. So thank you, Dr. Williams Devine. All these women were instrumental to shaping who I am today. And because I'm impacting my community, because I'm making history, they too have made history too. So I challenge you to think about your own life, both men and women. Those are all that are listening. Did you have a strong or nurturing mother, a grandmother that sacrificed to make sure that you had everything you needed? To make sure you could go to that school, to make sure you could play that sport? My mom, when I say she sacrificed her money and her sleep to make sure that my sister could compete as a gymnast. My sister was a gymnast for years. She competed. She had medals on medals on medals. She wanted to be the next Dominique Dawes. My mom sacrificed, like she worked at night, so she would sleep in the car so my sister could go to practice. Did you have a mother or grandmother or auntie that will sacrifice so you can have a better life than the one that they had? Perhaps it was a teacher that saw potential in you that no one else saw. Maybe your own family didn't see it, but they saw it. They saw you. Beyond the antics, beyond the misbehavior, they saw you and they saw what was inside of you. And that completely changed the trajectory of your life. Maybe it was a track coach, a dance teacher, or even a professor. So this month, we celebrate women for their accomplishments and helping us along the way to achieve ours. So from the bottom of my heart, to all the women out there, thank you. So guys, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today in the Brownstone. It's been a pleasure to share more of my story because remember, this is the year that we are celebrating women's stories. It's been an honor to share my story with you, and I will continue to reveal more of that to you. So thank you so much for tuning and listening in. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at Brownstone Worldwide and visit us at brownstoneworldwide.com, as well as KCCR The Brownstone, the app that you can download today and listen to us anytime you want. And I have content written for you up there in the Numbers Don't Lie section. So go check it out because numbers don't be lying. And I'll be back every week to help you learn more about getting out of your feelings so you can make the best decisions for yourself, your family, and your business. So make sure you come back next week or the next time. I have so many great shows, so many great guests lined up for you to give you some just good stuff for your life. And I also have a live Q&A that happens every Wednesday on Instagram Live, just by simply following me at Mogul Beginnings. That's MOGUL. You'll see it. I advertise it for it every week. And you can join me live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in my Ask a Data Scientist segment. And you can ask me questions that's related about data, numbers, and even business, because I support businesses and nonprofits. Alrighty, guys. So thank you again so much for spending time with me. I really appreciate it. But before we go, before I just release you guys and end the show and play my little music, I want to end the show with a beautiful piece by a talented woman named Rian Jenkins. And her piece is called Because of Them, We Can. Go ahead and enjoy that piece and then let us know what you thought about it. Until next time, guys.
And this is a piece I wrote. I can't remember when I wrote it, but it's in salute, where I tell my kids, and I teach predominantly Black kids, I tell them, do not take for granted your education, because somebody died for you to get here. And it's because of them we can. That's the title of the poem. I am the legacy my grandmother prayed for. Sitting in a room that was one inaccessible, enjoying the fruits of their labor, protests, marches, rallies, and sit-ins, interrupted by ripped skin due to dog bites and fire truck hoses, limped away with bruises with the constant collision of bats and nightsticks, bricks shattering their windows, burning crosses on their lawns, death threats, bombs killing the innocent, bullets shot to intimidate and paralyze the fight. I am the beacon of hope, the light shining as a testimony I have overcome, but yet we're still enduring some hardship, but it won't stop me from appreciating what my ancestors did for me. I'm not caring about being labeled a nerd or a geek. I'm getting mine because some people aren't alive. They died to ensure that our right was a reality and not an unattainable dream. So who am I to waste it? Excellence flows through me. Mediocrity is beneath me. I am more than an athlete. I am the heartbeat of those who wanted better for me. They didn't let Jim Crow stop what God promised. I'm a trailblazer in my own sight. Nevertheless, I will not forget the fight that created a pathway for me to determine my destiny, refusing to fall victim to the identity stereotypical of our people. There is no excuse for me to emulate what is expected when my people were inventors, professors, politicians, doctors, scientists, lawyers, actors, millionaires in a world where they weren't accepted. Constantly being defiled with sit in the back of the bus or give up your seat and you can't lodge in my facility. No, you can't go to school with us and we don't serve your kind and know your place, boy. When there wasn't a role built for one, they built one and created one for themselves. There are no excuses when I have all the tools, examples who broke all the rules and laws. Greatness isn't restricted to pale skin. I'm a torchbearer. I am the responsibility to go higher, defy gravity, achieve greatness than those who went before me. Overjoyed, the mortification and the torment was worth it. The tears and the blood weren't wasted. Their fight isn't in vain. Their victory isn't tainted. I am their hope, their dream, their reality, their legacy. Thank you.